Shalom. This week we are reading Parashat Ki Teitzei, beginning in Sefer Devarim, the book of Deuteronomy, chapter 21 and verse 10. And at the end of this week's portion, we have Moshe Rabbeinu's admonition to the Jewish people to wipe out the memory of Amalek. Here we are in the month of Elul, the special time of realigning ourselves with our Father in heaven and doing a sort of inventory on our relationship with God. And today, everybody wants to be cool. But when it comes to a relationship with God, in the words of our sages, we don't want to be cool, we actually want to be hot. We want to be on fire to serve God. And one of the things our sages tell us that Amalek actually represents is the Yetzer Hara, the evil inclination's desire, and his methodology of cooling things off, of telling us not to be so excited about serving God. And in the end of Parashat Ki Teitzei, actually in chapter 25 and verse 17, we find these words, "Remember what Amalek did to you on the way when you were leaving Egypt, that he happened upon you on the way and struck those of you who were hindmost." And these words, "Asher karcha baderech," that he happened upon you, they actually can be translated, Asher karcha, that he cooled you off. It's actually kufresh, the root for cold. And one novel way of looking at these words is that the attack of Amalek was that he kind of cooled you off. He threw some sort of coolant on you. And indeed, the end of this portion, what Moshe is really doing is reminding us that we must always stand guard against Amalek. Amalek is our eternal enemy. It's the evil inclination really symbolized by Amalek. And some of the deep insight of our sages is that Amalek never actually tells us to stop serving God, never wants us to stop serving God, but rather Amalek would be satisfied if we would serve God with less passion, with less enthusiasm, with less fire. In short, he tries to convince us that it's not so necessary for us to be excited about our serving God. And that, of course, is the beginning of the end for a Jew. The worst thing that can happen to a person is to grow complacent and for things to become commonplace and for us to stop being excited about serving God. Indeed, we really have to be on fire for God, but Amalek wants us to cool off our desire, and he actually wants us just to think it's enough for us to fulfill our obligations in a very minimal sense, not the best way we possibly could, but just enough to say that we did it, to say that we were there, just enough to really get away with it. The minimal and yet acceptable way is actually the epitome of the methodology of the evil inclination, and he's very smart. Instead of telling us, just give it up, don't bother, he says, well, do it, but don't really care about it. And that, of course, is a very great danger to a person. So, here is a very novel way of looking at these words. Remember what Amalek did to you on the way when you left Egypt. And it's a way of understanding the depth of the insight of our sages. Every one of these words has symbolic meaning as well, and it's kind of a novel way. It's kind of like this. Remember what Amalek did to you on the way, that is, baderech, in the way, baderech, the way that you serve God. Bitseitchem, which of course means when you left Egypt, can be understood as following the lines of the idea of latzeit yidei chova. This is an expression in halacha. Latzeit means to fulfill your obligation, to kind of go out of the obligation, but in a very minimalistic way, without any fire. So remember what he did, that in the way of serving God, b'tseitchem, to just be yotze, to do it in such a way, very minimalistically, mimitzrayim, from Egypt, which of course literally means from the narrow places. And this is the dastardly trick of the evil inclination, that he tries to get us to feel satisfied serving God in the derech, in a very minimalistic way, and that is b'tseitchem, and not to express the true desire, which is the fire within our souls, to literally be on fire for God. And that is one level of meaning in these words that we can take to heart in this month of Elul, remembering that the greatest enemy in our coming closer to God and in our divine service is to fall prey to the trap of complacency. And our prayer should be that we should never be too cool. We should always be on fire for the service of God.